Welcome to the Sweat Simple podcast. I'm Brooks, and I'm an online fitness, nutrition, and mindset coach who's here to help you learn how to eat and exercise for real life, not just those perfect moments. Because let's be real, there is a lot of conflicting information online, and it can be hard to know what's legit and who to trust. In every episode, I'll be sharing the science and psychology behind health, fitness, and long-lasting behavior change, but I'll also be sharing practical, real-life application because all of the best info in the world only matters if you can apply it to your real life. So grab a coffee, water, glass of wine, or lace up your walking shoes, and let's dive in. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Sweat Simple podcast. Today, we are talking all about planning fallacy and how to overcome it. And I gave a little preview of planning fallacy a couple podcast episodes ago, but this is where we are really doing a deep dive. And I really wanted to make this episode because I know that a lot of you are type A women. We are planners. We love a good plan. We love to plan. And sometimes, believe it or not, that planning is a detriment. And that planning is actually why we are really stuck in this cycle of planning for the week, not following through, feeling really frustrated, getting annoyed with ourselves, saying we just need a better plan, starting over. I mean, it just keeps going over and over and over. So what actually is planning fallacy? This is a cognitive bias, and cognitive biases, I don't know. If someone knows, shoot me a DM, let me know. It's a tendency to favor or oppose something lacking a neutral viewpoint. So it's really not being able to see the gray. It's almost borderline all or nothing thinking, and we're just not considering any sort of nuance or neutral viewpoints. It's very one or the other. And our brains naturally have these biases because we are trying to make sense of things and we're trying to simplify things. Our brains are always trying to conserve energy. So simplifying things into black and white, all or nothing thinking, it's always going to be our default. This is actually why our brains love diet culture and love food rules, because it is so much easier to put food into buckets of I can have this food, I can't have this food. This food is good, this food is bad. This food is allowed for fat loss, this food is not allowed for fat loss. Category, this or that category, that is so much easier for our brains. That requires so much less energy for our brains than having a lot of nuance does. Then being able to say, oh, this cupcake isn't bad, especially if I'm eating it and it's my friend's birthday, then maybe the cupcake is okay. That is so much harder than just saying cupcake is bad, I can't eat cupcake. This is why it's often so much work and feels like we are truly rewiring our brains when we try a different fat loss approach. I help my clients reduce their all or nothing thinking, and that is why it is such a key point in my one-on-one coaching program, because it's not our natural tendency. Our natural tendency is to be very black and white and to have a lot of all or nothing thinking and to have these biases. So that is why it can feel so difficult sometimes to think of food in more of this gray area and to think of these things with more nuance. That is a topic though for another time. We're not talking about diet culture today. We're not talking about all or nothing thinking. We're not talking about food rules. We are talking about planning fallacy specifically. And planning fallacy specifically is tending to be overconfident in our ability to do things in the future with a failure to consider barriers or setbacks. So where might this be coming up for you as a type A woman? Hearing what that is, okay, planning fallacy is being overconfident and not thinking about hurdles and barriers. You can probably relate. I know that I could back in the day when I was stuck in my yo-yo dieting phase. You look at the week with a ton of optimism, which is great. You might look at the upcoming week and you say, okay, I'm going to plan all of my meals. I'm going to the gym, get to the gym 5 times. I'm not going to have any alcohol until Saturday. And I'm going to hit my calories every single day this week, which is a lovely plan. That plan sounds great. If we just do that plan, you probably will lose weight. You'll lose weight consistently. This will feel easy breezy. So of course we're going to plan in that way because we're starting the week with a lot of optimism. But I want you to think about how many times have you actually followed through with these plans. Planning fallacy has us forgetting about real life. Both external hurdles, like maybe my kids get sick, Maybe work runs really late. Maybe I forgot to defrost the chicken. But also internal hurdles, like I often don't feel like doing this in the moment. I'm running out of low motivation. I am starting to question if this is even possible for me. I tend to fall into emotional eating the second I feel stress. Planning fallacy doesn't take any of that into account. We only think about best case scenario. We only think really optimistically. We only think, yeah, of course I'm going to figure it out. I'm just going to work really hard. And if I just put my nose to the grindstone, like obviously this plan is going to happen. And you might notice that if you continue to fall into this planning fallacy, you're never sticking to your plan. And it's not necessarily that we need to be more realistic with our planning. It's more so about remembering that these hurdles exist. So how can we overcome that? How can we overcome the planning fallacy? One way that I help my one-on-one coaching clients start to overcome this is something called mental contrasting. So mental contrasting is when we are not just looking at best case scenarios, but we are also starting to think about all of the hurdles that typically pop up that might come in the way. And we're thinking about those external hurdles like, okay, what if my kids get sick? What if I forget to defrost the chicken? What if work runs late? All of those things that are kind of more like out of our control. But then we also need to plan for those internal hurdles too. So what happens when low motivation pops up? What happens when I want to turn to chocolate because I'm feeling really stressed? What happens when I am just not feeling like doing these things in the moment? So instead of only planning and planning for best case scenario and planning for what we're going to do, we also need to plan for these internal and external hurdles that often comes up. So for example, one of my clients was recognizing that she was saying, okay, I'm going to do 3 workouts every single week. I'm going to make it happen. It's going to happen. It's just going to, all fall through. And what she started to realize is every single week she was doing 1, maybe she was doing 2, but she was never doing all 3. And when we started to talk through, okay, what's happening like in these moments? Why are we not getting all these workouts in? What's actually going on? Because with my one-on-one coaching clients, I'm never just saying, hey, you got to be consistent. We're always getting curious. We're always figuring out why are these things happen so that we can work through them and get 10% better. What you started to realize is that I often have low energy. And when it comes time to do that workout, the thought of doing a 45-minute workout is really daunting. And I just can't do it. So if we are falling into planning fallacy and we're only ever being really optimistic, how that would look like is she would have just kept saying over and over and over, I'm going to do 3 workouts. I'm going to do 3 workouts. I'm going to do 3 workouts. And she probably would never have gotten the 3 workouts done. But because we took this mental contrasting approach, we were able to say, okay, what is the main barrier here? What is usually preventing you from getting these 3 workouts in? And for her, it was that low energy. It was, there are a lot of days where I just don't have the energy for a full 45-minute workout, and that feels really daunting. So what we did, because we can now plan for this hurdle, is we created an if-then plan. If I am feeling low energy, then I will do this specific 20-minute workout. So she had workouts planned for her high energy days that were her normal 45-minute workouts. And then she had workouts planned for her low energy days, which were 20-minute workouts. So now she knew going into the week, the plan was not just, I need to get 3 workouts in. And no matter what, I just somehow need to figure that out. The plan was now, I'm getting 3 workouts in. If I have energy, it will be this 45-minute workout. If my energy is low, which is my main barrier, the main thing that usually gets in the way, then I will do this 20-minute workout. And this if-then planning, this is just one example of what we might uncover and what skill we might use when we're using mental contrasting in this way. But the whole purpose, the whole goal is that we are starting to plan not just for best case scenarios, but also plan for these hurdles that are popping up week after week after week. Because I bet if right now you look at the days that you're not being consistent with this plan and you start to dig a little bit deeper, you'll notice that it's typically the same hurdles popping up week after week. It's typically things like work ran really late, we're running out of energy, I just don't feel like it in the moment, I'm starting to feel like what is even the point of this? These hurdles repeat themselves. These patterns repeat themselves. So if we can start to account for these hurdles, if we can start to expect them, if we can also plan for how we want to navigate the hurdles when they pop up, we're going to start to be a lot more consistent because we're not just setting a plan for best case scenario. We're not just being incredibly optimistic and hoping that somehow we will figure this out, even though we've never figured this out before. We're starting to get realistic. We're starting to also plan for the moments that this feels really, really hard. So I'm going to challenge you to do that this week, to not just plan for best case scenario, to not just be overly optimistic, but to also think about what are the moments that this typically feels really, really hard. And how can I plan for those moments? Maybe we need a couple more strategies to use in those moments. And if so, that's the type of thing we would work together on in one-on-one coaching. But maybe you already have some ideas, which would be amazing. And then you can start to implement those things as opposed to falling back into this pattern week after week where you just keep saying, I need to be more consistent. I need to stick to the plan. I need to have more willpower. And then we're not following through week after week after week. So that is all I've got for you guys. That is your homework assignment. Think about where you can implement mental contrasting with your plan this week. And shoot me a DM. Let me hold you accountable. Send me a DM. Let me know what you're doing. If you guys have any questions too, shoot me a DM. I'm always here to listen. Don't forget, I pick one person every single month to win a free personalized fat loss blueprint with me. All you have to do to be entered to win is share this episode on your stories or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Screenshot it, send it to me. Let me know you left that review. Otherwise, though, I am so excited to be talking with you guys in a couple weeks, and we'll talk soon.